Hello and welcome to another episode of the Bitcoin News Show right here on the World Crypto Network. Thanks again, everybody, so much for joining us. We've been gone a little bit, took a bit of a break there. Maybe now is a good time to remind everybody that I have been kind of doing this show just about every Sunday for the last 2.5 years. So, no seasonal breaks, nothing like that. So maybe I deserved a little bit of a break there, but no, we're back here talking Bitcoin again because, as you guys know, we can't stay away from Bitcoin too long. It will pull you back in like a black hole. So very, very, very pleased to be back from the break. And I hope that everybody can bear with us here and have this awesome content. I'll have this awesome conversation as we try to do, guys, every Sunday with our ritual here talking Bitcoin. Well, let's just go through actually, before we go through the Quickbits section, I just wanted to mention here that everybody on the panel will, that everybody you see here today on the show will be on in Denver, Colorado next Wednesday. We're actually going to talk a little bit about that too towards the end of the show, but I did want to mention that here that all the links are in the show notes below, including the link to this April 25th event that we're looking forward to in Colorado. I hope everybody can join us there. You're going to see everybody here: Adam Meister, Andy Hoffman, Michael Krieger, and more. Hopefully Jack Mallers as well. It's going to be a great time, and we hope you guys can come out down there and say hello. I think it's only like $20. Come down, shake our hand, ask us a question, and hang out so we can, of course, talk Bitcoin. So we're really, really looking forward to that. So let's go ahead and get into the quick bit section, and then we will get into the introductions. Currently, the Mayer multiple is at 0.91, which is historically been higher about 80% of the time or so, with an average of 1.57. There was a report that there is less than 1% of Bitcoin transactions are actually used for illicit or illegal use. Again, guys, all the links are in the show. Check that out, because we, of course, know that the US dollar is the #1 currency for transacting in illegal activity. Then there is Bitcoin Magazine did an amazing article about the history of Lightning. You guys got to check that out. Bitcoinmagazine.com. Really great informative blog post, just detailing all the history of how we got from the beginnings of Lightning to the public beta that was recently just launched a couple weeks ago. And then speaking of Lightning, the first Lightning Network wallet application has actually been released for the Android store over there from the Eclair wallet team from acinq. Guys, everybody check that out. So far, it's looking pretty good. I've seen some screenshots of some use over on Twitter, and people seem to be liking it. So very cool. Check that out. Hopefully, we'll see more of these Lightning wallets with iOS and every other platform as well. It's going to take some time for people to build out this stuff, but we're really looking forward to Lightning becoming a huge part of the Bitcoin ecosystem. And then a couple people, from Bitgo, Ben Davenport and Jameson Lopp, two of these people that I respect the absolute most over there at Bitgo, have recently left the company just as the company started supporting ERC20 tokens. Maybe something to do with it, just maybe. You guys got to check that link out. So a little bit sad to see, but I'm really happy when I see these people, for example, Gregory Maxwell as well, or other people leave like Blockstream, so that we can really kind of keep this ecosystem decentralized, so people can have the opportunity to work on the projects that they love, that they are passionate about, rather than what the boss says. So this is really great to see these people kind of stepping out on their own. I do believe that Jameson Lopp started a new company of his own. I'm not sure what Ben's going to do yet, but really looking forward to see, because these guys are absolutely instrumental in the space. Very important, very intelligent people. So you got to follow both those guys on Twitter. That's Ben Davenport and Jameson Lopp. And then, guys, a very interesting person in the space we like to call Saifedean has released a brand new book. You guys got to check this out. I really highly recommend everybody check this out. This is called The Bitcoin Standard, and there is a link to the top 10 great points that was over there at Bitcoinist. That they reviewed the book, they took a look at it, and they pointed out the top 10 best points that the book makes. And so I really hope you guys can check that out as well. It's available right now for both the digital version that you can listen to, and the physical version. So check that out, guys. Great book. And then finally, a little bit of some side interesting news here. You can now pay for your surf holidays over there in Portugal with Bitcoin. So if you guys, all the surfers out there, I don't know how many Bitcoin surfers there are, but there's got to be a few. I can check that out over there in Portugal, which also doesn't have any capital gains tax on BTC. So maybe stay there for a little while. Who knows? That's a link down there in the show notes. So check that out, guys. And then I think that's about it for the quick bits, so we can finally get into the introductions and topics. So without further ado, let's introduce our panelists today. Again, you can see all these guys on April 25th, next Wednesday in Boulder, Colorado. Check out that link. Mr. Adam Meister will be one of the people joining us. Adam, how are you doing today?
I'm great, Vortex. It's great to be here today.
Awesome, man. Glad to see you wearing the WCN shirt there, as you can see in the back as well. Pretty cool. Everybody repping WCN. And then we got Andy Hoffman, the man who does not like technical analysis. Andy, how you doing today?
Good. For a second, I thought that Adam had a beer in his hand, but that cannot possibly be.
Water, just water.
There's no alcoholic beverages on the Bitcoin News Show, people. Come on.
And by the way, the show, it is a Boulder blockchain event, but the show is in Denver.
Oh, yep, in Denver, Colorado, guys.
Yes.
So definitely check that out. Again, the links are below. And Andy will be there as well. And of course, Michael Krieger will be there as well. Michael, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Vortex. Yeah, I can't wait. I've never met you, and I've never met Adam. Of course, I know Andy pretty well, but it's going to be a lot of fun just to meet people and talk Bitcoin. And I don't travel really anymore, so I don't go to conferences. I don't do any of that stuff. So this is like kind of a big thing for me. So can't wait.
Absolutely, man. I'm excited. I, too, don't go to a whole lot of conferences out there. I go to a few. I list them on my website. You guys can check that out at the1vortex.com. I do have a few calendar links on there. But, yeah, I mean, this is really great. The few events that I'm going to see this year are going to be events where I get to meet a ton of great people in person that I've only known online. And you guys are definitely some of those. And then I'll also be at the Bitcoin Rodeo event over there in Calgary in Canada come July. So you guys got to check that out too. Going to meet a lot of great people there. Francis, as you guys know, I've have him on the show all the time. Going to meet him. Bitcoin Benny, BTC Benny from the BTC Sessions podcast. There's gonna be a bunch of people, so check that out too, all on my website. And then let's see. So I got the introductions out. So let's go ahead and go right for the topics, everybody. So with the first topic here, I'm sure Michael will have a thing or two to say about the taxation here. So maybe we'll go with Michael first. But the story here is about Credit Karma. They actually put out a post that says, according to their data, almost no one pretty much is reporting on crypto tax gains this year. And so, and there's a related story here too, where the New York Attorney General launched an inquiry into cryptocurrency exchanges. And so they're kind of related. So I kind of want to maybe treat them as one topic. But Michael, let me ask you, maybe is that why the Attorney General is launching this inquiry, is because nobody's paying their taxes? And is this a good thing or a bad thing for the crypto community?
Yeah, I think it's definitely related, I'm sure. I mean, they don't like these headlines, because we've seen these headlines, I think, for a long time now, where people just aren't reporting crypto capital gains. But here's the thing. I think there are three main issues behind why no one's essentially reporting. First of all, I think, as you know, people are used to either having taxes taken out of their payroll automatically, or, if you have a Charles Schwab account or a brokerage account you get at the end of the year, I think it's a 1099 that tells you exactly what, your capital gains are, and it sends a copy of that to the IRS as well. So it's all on a silver platter for you. You just put it into your tax accounting software, you send it to your accountant, it's done. So it's easy. With Bitcoin, as I think all of you know, it's a lot of work to figure this stuff out. I mean, particularly if you're spending it or using it, it's a huge pain in the butt. So that's number one. Number two, and this is the real thing, the tax guidance is absurd. It makes absolutely no sense. It's oppressive, and it's to the point where I think a lot of people essentially get to the point where they're like, if they're asking me to pay capital gains because I've spent $5 in Bitcoin or $10 in Bitcoin, it gets so overwhelming, I think, to some people that they just say, I'm just not going to bother with it at all. So it's very convoluted. And here's the other thing, and maybe one of you guys knows, because I sure don't know. I'm taking the most conservative approach, but forks. Do we even know what you're supposed to do with hard forks like Bcash? I mean, it makes no sense. So everyone's confused. Nobody knows what the heck to do. I think if the guidance was reasonable, everyone would do it, probably, or a lot of people would do it. But in any event, for me personally, I go through the anal probe that is trying to figure this out, because, I don't know if most of the people watching this are Bitcoiners. I do a lot of geopolitical stuff, political stuff as well, and I have for a long time. So I'm pissing off a lot of people, so I don't need it to give anyone an excuse to kind of come after me. So I'm actually very conservative and paranoid myself. But I just don't want to go there.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that don't want to go there, I guess, according to the reports there. I mean, these tax guidelines are ridiculous at this point. For example, for like the examples you gave there, Michael, forks and smaller purchases. I mean, who the heck wants to pay all these taxes on these tiny purchases, especially when you have things like Bitcoin debit cards? You know, I do kind of subscribe to the Tone Vays theory of taxes, where you want to pay at least amount of taxes that you can legally get away with. I guess so. I think you're right, Michael. I think more people would voluntarily probably be paying taxes if the guidance was a lot clearer. And it really, really, really is murky right now. Absolutely difficult to navigate. So let's go with Andy and see what his thoughts are on this. Andy, what is your thoughts on nobody reporting crypto taxes? Is this something that you expect to happen more in the future? Are we just now going to be able to finally like have a state of the world where government can't easily tax their citizens anymore?
Well, first of all, and I have a lot to say about this topic, I've tweeted a lot about the ridiculous comments like this Tom Lee guy and Zero Hedge saying, well, the Bitcoin's down because it's tax day coming up and everyone needs to sell. That is the most ridiculous, lame thing I've ever heard in my life. First of all, if that were the case, wouldn't the stock market, which is like 100 times larger, have a sell-off every year around March? Of course not. No, it has nothing to do with it. It came back because it was oversold, because it has amazing fundamentals and the price was too low. That's that simple. As for taxes, like what Mike is saying and many other things, people, for one, I don't believe, like when Tom Lee says it's $25 billion of taxes, I don't believe that for a second, because the way that I see the world is that the hodlers like us have no taxes to pay. They didn't sell at the low or sell at the high. And the new people who came swarming into the sector, which is what I saw in my business, what you have seen in your podcast, and what anyone in the crypto space has seen, these people came in at the end and they have huge losses, the ones who sold. There is no way that there are people who sold at the top and had low cost bases, these monster amounts that had to sell anyway. There's just no way. As for paying the taxes, yeah, and that's the other thing. Of course, the IRS has said that no one pays crypto taxes because unless you are at Coinbase and you have the Charles Schwab type thing where there's records of cash for crypto purchases and sales, there's no record of your doing so. So most people are not going to do it. More importantly, they don't have the records to do it because it is so complex. Plus, there's a huge amount of trades now that go crypto for crypto, and in all these esoteric exchanges around the world that don't even have reporting requirements or reporting even methods. And then, like Mike says, you got hard forks. And when we say the government, they have no guidelines, they're ridiculous. They don't even have guidelines. The government doesn't even understand what Bitcoin or cryptocurrency is. I mean, they don't even understand what Bitcoin is, let alone the rest of the cryptos, let alone to figure out a tax policy for hard forks or for spending Bitcoin on coffee. And, like you're talking before, that only 1% of the crimes are using Bitcoin. You know why? Because who wants to spend the Bitcoin? It's cheap. I want to spend my dollars if I'm doing crime.
Absolutely. I do not want to spend my Bitcoin pretty much at all. I mean, there's a few things that we got to buy, of course. And then if there's those people that are all in Bitcoin, right? But even they, I guarantee you, live very meager lives. I see people on Twitter that it's like, no joke, a Bitcoin rich, but I'm living on ramen. Well, this is what Bitcoin does to you. It enforces saving, right? It enforces you to think long term.
And part of that forcing you to be like that is because of the tax ramifications. There are people who are sitting on massive amounts of profits who are worried about how to sell them and the taxes will have to pay, and they don't want people to know it. So it's kind of like, until Bitcoin becomes more mainstream, there's going to be a lot of Bitcoin millionaires that live this way out of conservatism.
And I really like that. I really like Bitcoin forcing you to think long term. And this is exactly what Austrian economics does. This is exactly what sound money makes you do. And it makes you think about long term. And that's really, really important in our crazy society right now that just loves fiat and loves the dollar bills and rap videos and all the other crazy stuff that you get that comes out from a short term thinking society that lives off of fiat. This is what you get. Just spending them dollars, and that's not what we want to, that's not what we want to encourage. It's not what we want to encourage is this savings type of thing? Is this a capital accumulation so that you can have funding and for generations, for your generations to come, for your children's children, so that you can build a type of society worth living in, a society that does not come down and control its citizens with force of weapons. So interesting stuff, guys, so far. Let's see what Adam has to say on this topic. Adam, what is your thoughts on this? I saw that you pointed to yourself there when we were speaking about people that don't want to speaking about hodlers that don't want to have to worry about tax gains. I mean, we know you're a hodler, Adam, and we all, I believe, are hodlers of last resort. What is your thoughts on the conversation so far, and nobody like reporting taxes? Is like I said, is this going to be a ramification that we're going to have to deal with from years out from now, or is this just an inevitability what the crypto brings?
Well, first of all, I like that we're all encouraging people not to be impulsive. If you were one of those traders who was going back and forth, selling back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, you owe some taxes right now. And you probably bought through Coinbase originally. So I'm saying in this snowflake generation, these young people have never paid taxes anyway. So they're still thinking, oh, whatever. I did it through Coinbase. They'll never know. I heard a rumor that Coinbase is only going, this is them talking, that Coinbase is only going to report things from 2015. I didn't get in until 2017. So I'm cool with this. I'm all right. So that's one reason some people are not paying their taxes, because they're young. They've never had money. They're snowflakes. Their dad pays their taxes or whatever. That is something we have to consider. There are a lot of young people, and they really don't understand that if you signed up for Coinbase, you signed up for the IRS. That is the honeypot right there, Coinbase. And people went back and forth between Coinbase many times. There's many people. And Andy is absolutely right. Michael's right. All of us are right. The government has no clue how cryptocurrency works at all. So they're going to aim at the easiest target, which is Coinbase. They understand that. It's not hard to understand at all. Obviously, it's very unclear what you do, how crypto dividends are reported, how this is going to be reported. Us holders, we don't need to worry about anything. The longer we wait, I bet by the year 2021, the government will understand this. The tax policy will be clear by then, and it might be even more beneficial for us by then. Instead of people panicking now and selling and trying to deal with all the nonsense, I think it'll be clear after the 2020 halving. So again, it's just, another reason to hold. But yeah, a lot of people are not paying their crypto taxes that are going to get caught because they did it through Coinbase. So that's how I see it.
Yep. And, I do believe, I think I have to agree with you there, Adam, that, this stuff will get figured out. Just like the internet, there was all sorts of crazy stuff that went on the internet in the early days. And now, of course, we have a viable commercial platform that people can launch businesses off of. And I think one day the Bitcoin will mature to the point to where we will have this all figured out, where we will all agree on at least the fundamental parts of what Bitcoin is. Maybe not agree, completely about what Bitcoin is, but at least we can agree on things like, look, you need to have your own private keys. You need to be able to protect these things. And I just don't see. I think I've talked about this in the past, where I do see Bitcoin completely reforming the entire tax system, as we know it, simply because they will not be able to get away with the same stunts and the same types of shenanigans that they've gotten away with before. Many people have predicted this. Milton Friedman, right? Many economists, technologists, and cypherpunks have really kind of predicted that with Bitcoin, we can now have a native currency on the internet, and with which to build a whole new type of society, and not a democratic society, but an actual decentralized consensus society, where we can have all of these little federated, federated groups that you can choose and go back and forth from, right? And still maintain your sovereignty. You won't have to be punished by a weapon for going over from this country, too early, and so on and so forth. And Michael, has a lot of great writings, or speaks about a lot of this stuff that's really great, a lot of macroeconomic view. So I definitely encourage you guys to check out, all the podcasts that Michael's been in. But this is what I think the future of Bitcoin really is going to bring us, is this new type of enlightened society where it's not tied to any piece of dirt. So very interesting stuff, guys. Does anybody have any final comments on this topic before we move on?
I was just going to jump in there. I mean, so it's interesting because as you mentioned, I like to look at things in Bitcoin in the context of everything, right? As far as like, it's almost the leading edge to where we're going. So if you understand the principles of Bitcoin, how revolutionary it is, you can then say, well, why can't we do this for everything, right? And I think that's why it's such an important red pill. But I was just going to mention, like, so what's happening right now, because as I mentioned, I look at politics a lot, geopolitics. the way the media, right, the mass media right now is having a panic attack about people coming to their own conclusions about stuff. It's a similar thing to what Bitcoin, right? I mean, human beings are peer-to-peer now. We're talking to each other. We're sharing ideas with each other. We're commenting on the news to each other. And now they're just calling it fake news and they're trying to censor it, right, on Facebook. So, but this is something that, you know, we may see this sort of panic from states with Bitcoin later on, but the big point is this: it doesn't matter, right? They lost. You know, the old system is dead as far as I'm concerned. Now the question is, like, how desperate will they get? How much will they fight? We don't know that. But at the end of the day, this is a battle I truly believe we cannot lose. I think it's already almost won because people are just sick of this garbage.
I believe you're right, and obviously, you know. The vast majority, of course, are happy, right, and fat and docile. We understand that, the 80% out there, but there is this 20% that wants to see this new enlightened society, and with the intelligence that they have behind them, and now the actual purchasing power with Bitcoin. There's just, I don't see any way that, you know, that we can't bring this into fruition. There's all sorts of these types of movements already, you know, out there that you guys can check out. I think you mentioned, Michael, like the sea-bearing ones where they're doing stuff on the ocean. What was that one?
Yeah, seasteading. I think it was one of Adam's other guests that mentioned it. But yeah, exactly. I mean, even the people tried to create this place called Liberland. It's probably not going to be anything. But the point is, you know, that's what's going to happen next. And plus, you know, I believe the U.S. empire is going to have a huge collapse in the next 7 years. And so that'll provide opportunities for regions to sort of exert their own sovereignty in the way that the U.S. was originally constructed, because we were supposed to have, it was supposed to be these United States, not the United States. And so we've gone away from our history, and we're going to go back to it, in my view. More decentralized states.
Yep, and that's great. I mean, that's really how the United States started. You know, it wasn't always this federal conglomerate trying to police the world and extort through their currency. Like, you know, this is only in recent times here in the last, you know, 30, 40 years, once we got off the gold standard and just started, you know, using our dollar to create wars, right? And of course, after the petrodollar, well, then that was just basically a nonstop war on everybody who doesn't want to use it. So yeah, we're hoping that, you know, Bitcoin really will bring this type of change because, like you say, the US dollar now will have competition between cryptocurrencies and other nation states like China and Russia trying to do their own thing and trying to get off the petrodollar. And so it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. I don't know how long this will take or anything, but we're really excited to see this new future. And it's nothing to be afraid of. It's nothing to be scared of, right? Like the global monetary policy usually changes every 50 years anyway, where we decide to do things a little bit differently, hopefully a little bit better. And I think that this is going to be much, much, much for the better.
Well, you know, at Vortex, of course, things like this is sea changes that take a long time in general. But as Mike said on his, we did a great one-on-one call just 2 days ago. He said, these are the times when you can have decades of change within weeks. You know, when you have something as volatile as the global political situation and as cancerous as the monetary situation at a time where Bitcoin is rapidly becoming more popular and opening eyes around the world, there's a lot of things that can happen in a very short period of time, which is why anyone who just is trading for all the other reasons amongst that, as opposed to just hodling and just relaxing, knowing that you're sitting on something that's unbelievably cheap compared to what it could accomplish, it's really, it's remarkable.
Yep. No, Andy, I do want to push back a little bit. Just, you know, say that, hey, traders are going to trade, right? That's what they do. It's their livelihood, and they like to stare at charts all day, and that's fine. But we do try to, of course, people like yourself and me, try to encourage hodling more than trading because it's so easy to get sucked in. And there are professional traders that do professional trading and kick ass, and that's great, you guys. You know, make your livelihood. But unfortunately, this world is right now, the crypto space is made up of about 99.9% chartists who are 13 years old, and that's just not gonna kind of like help it's not gonna help anybody.
But you know what? I think that's the problem is, and the reason I'm so vocal about it on my Twitter feed is that's the perception. People think that it's a lot of people who are just trading and desperate for a couple of gurus to tell them what to do. That's not the case. The silent majority are hodlers, but in our space, the majority of the airtime goes to these people who are constantly telling people to do things with their Bitcoin, to trade them, to cloud mine them, to do all kinds of things that are ultimately going to get them to lose Bitcoin. And that's why I'm fighting against it so hard, because I'm trying to get people to stop focusing on these people and focus on the fundamentals. Because fundamental analysis which is something that Mike and I did way back when it existed, to me is pretty much a lost art. People are way too much now into social media and just listening to charismatic personalities and not focusing on fundamentals and simple things like tax policy. And it's amazing. And I'm going to keep fighting it tooth and nail until I get as many people as possible to realize that 90% of traders lose money and 90% of hodlers make money.
Yeah, and that's true. You can't argue with, those actual statistics, of course. And but I think that the debate of fundamental versus technical goes back far before I was born, as people have been trading, using technical analysis for well over a century. But like you say, it's true. Yeah.
It's useful as a tool, Vortex. It's useful as a tool. I mean, it's funny. People think that I'm like, oh, he's just this Bitcoin guy. No, dudes, I spent 20 years on Wall Street. I'm a CFA. I was a sell-side analyst at Solomon Smith Barney. I was institutional investor ranked. I worked at buy-side funds. I traded bonds at Cantor Fitzgerald. I have a career in finance. I understand what technical analysis is. I just am trying to say that technical analysis is a tool. Fundamental analysis is where the bulk of your investment decision should come from. And technical analysis, when used properly, as in not just staring at the same charts that the other 10,000 people with chartered technical analysis degrees are looking at. That's not what technical analysis is. It's a tool in a vast, a vast arsenal of analytical techniques. That's it.
Yep. Yeah, agree, and totally agree. And even Tone, talks about on his shows how he doesn't only use that TD indicator, right? That's only one thing that he uses to try to tell the price. There's a many other things like volume and of course the fundamentals. And of course, I asked Tone last time he was on the show, like how do you feel about the fundamentals? Because we hear you talk enough about the technicals, right? Because that's what your specialty is. But what do you think of the fundamentals? And of course, every time, he'll agree that the fundamentals are absolutely phenomenal. And he has his life savings in Bitcoin. So yeah, it's true. Like I think that a lot of people, a lot more people than we think are looking at the fundamentals too. But as you know, Andy, as we've said and as you discussed it, the views tend to all go to the chartists out there. But hey, there's nothing that we can do. We will continue to remind people of the fundamentals, and we hope that as many people as possible listen to us. So I think we can close out that topic. Andy or Adam, do you have anything else to say on that topic? Adam?
Yeah, the 80%ers want some impulsive, quick returns. They're going to try to do all these silly things. They're going to think they're traders. They're going to buy BitConnect. It's all the same thing. We've warned them. They can do what they're going to do. They're just making the 20% holders richer. So go ahead, do what you're going to do, guys.
BitConnect. All right, everybody's favorite meme. I think I love to hate on that, like even more than the Federal Reserve these days. It's hilarious. All right, I think we can move on to the next topic. Before we do that, guys, please give us a thumbs up if you like what you're seeing here. If you guys are new to the World Crypto Network, please hit the subscribe button below. We do try to bring you guys a bunch of different content. We have people like Adam and Andy and Michael. We're going to try to actually bring more people to the audio podcast, and lots of changes are afoot, people. So we're really excited to bring you guys more content. And again, please, just one more reminder, come see us down here next Wednesday in Denver. We really hope to see you guys down there in Denver. We got drinks and we got, it's going to be fun. We got plenty of seats. So plenty of seats in there, guys. So come down there and check us out. So let's go ahead and move on to the second topic. This was actually supposed to be the first topic, but I can't read today. So we'll go ahead and make this the second topic. And it, of course, ties into what we've been talking about already here, which is the local Bitcoins, I guess. Everybody maybe have heard this news or maybe not, but the local Bitcoin trading platform has now decided to comply with KYC across the board in many different nations. And so I wanted to get the panel's thoughts on this because, this, of course, is upsetting to privacy enthusiasts like myself and many other people. It's a bit jarring. There are other alternatives, and of course we'll talk about those today as well. But let's go with Adam first, maybe on this. Adam, what are your thoughts on this local Bitcoins shutting down, starting to enforce the KYC? Is this going to slow down? Do you think the volume of local Bitcoins, is this going to slow down the amount of people that are using it? Because we're still seeing record spikes in countries like Venezuela.
Well, in the United States, it'll slow down, yeah. And it's expected. I mean, it was only a matter of time before they complied to the rules of the United States. They don't want some guy knocking at their door and arresting them. I think they're based in the United States. Someone probably traces back to the United States there. In other countries, like in Venezuela, I don't think it's going to make that big of a difference. Or or whatever. But we're all going toward this decentralized exchange type of thing. What's it, BISC? Is that the one? That's a decentralized exchange. Eventually, those are difficult to use right now. So again, people are going to stick with what's easy to use. They don't care about giving out their most people don't care about being KYC'd in the country. Again, most people get their Bitcoin originally from Coinbase, so it's not going to make that big of a difference. But eventually, we're going to come up with solutions where we're going to be able to avoid KYC, because Bitcoin is all about decentralization anyway. It isn't about depending on one third-party entity to store all your information and report to the IRS about you and everything. So this was expected, and I guess it'll temporarily slow things down in the United States. But people get used to it and probably keep on using it, and we'll see. Pound that like button, people.
Yes. If you guys like what you're seeing, please hit that thumbs up button. Yeah, very interesting stuff. Like you say, I guess it will continue to thrive in probably, countries that have less restrictions and horrible capital controls. That's probably where it's going to thrive. And if they try to shut that down, then they'll just go peer to peer. It'll just be like everything else in every other country that, for example, tries to sell dollars. It'll just be down the street. Everybody knows the street that you go to exchange some of that currency. So very interesting stuff. Let's go with Andy next. Mr. Andy Hoffman, what are your thoughts on this local Bitcoin story? Is this going to, you think, put a damper at all on Bitcoin's growth in other countries, or is this just going to kind of accelerate decentralized exchanges and other options besides these things like Coinbase?
I don't think it really matters because, first of all, in America, most people don't use localbitcoins.com because they have these exchanges. Because they're simply easier, and they'll use them as long as they are around. I mean, if the U.S. government banned Coinbase, well, then they'd go to the next easiest place. But in a lot of places around the world, these things are not available. There are no exchanges, or people don't have bank accounts, or in many cases there is no KYC, or the government doesn't care, or wouldn't even know how to create a policy or enforce it, even if they wanted to. So when you're talking about Bitcoin trading around the world, I don't think the local Bitcoins policies really matter much at all. And again, if the U.S. government did something draconian, like say they were going to ban it, I think it would just make it more valuable around the world, because it would, that's the fine line the U.S. government has to walk on, realizing that we're only 4% of the world population, but such a big financial player. And if they admit that they're scared, it was the same thing with gold way back when. If they admit that they're scared of Bitcoin, it's just going to make it more valuable around the world. So I don't really think it matters. I think, the on-ramps for just about everyone in the Western world have involved KYC in the beginning. And now that so much of it is in the ecosystem, it's going to start trading peer-to-peer. And like Adam says, there'll be new ways that are created that people can trade outside of the current on-ramps. And one day they won't even matter. So it really doesn't matter much to me. Look at Venezuela. Look at the local Bitcoin's volume is exploding. When people need it, they find a way to use it.
Yeah, great points. I think that, it's going to stimulate development into decentralized exchanges. I mean, some people think that, decentralized exchanges can never take off, but I do believe that once the user experience is there and once the liquidity is there, between, I'm not talking about fiat, for example, because that's going to always be difficult. Banks are going to always make that difficult to control, the on-ramps and off-ramps to fiat. But if you're talking about just crypto trading, I just don't see a world where we have tons of these decentralized exchanges that are all competing for liquidity, and you just choose the best one that's available. So I mean, there are a couple ones out there I'd like to mention, for example, like HODL, BISC, and then Paxful. Even Paxful is working pretty decent still. And there's these other companies that you can go to, but we do try to recommend people stay away from the bigger KYC exchanges like Coinbase and things like that. But, the vast majority, that's going to be the best option for them because they are federally insured. You don't have to worry about your private keys, right? But of course, it's not your Bitcoin then, but it is unfortunately still a good way to onboard new users into the system. And then eventually after they have the Bitcoin, then, they will have a little bit of a incentive, some skin in the game to be able to hopefully learn more. And so that's what we're trying to encourage. Michael, what is your thoughts on this story? Is this really not really a big deal like Andy says, or is this going to kind of maybe, you know, lead to some kind of movement we can't really predict right now? Like, how big is this, Andy? Or how big is this, Michael?
Okay, so first of all, I just wanted to mention that, you know, for me, when I first got into Bitcoin, the most amazing thing for me, the light bulb moment, was when I realized I just could download some software and then send value to someone else peer-to-peer if they had software installed on their computer. And that's where I really realized the power, because I realized, you know, you don't have to ask anyone permission, right? Permissionless. I could send what I want from me to them. Wait, so that's at the core of Bitcoin, right? What's exciting about it, what's revolutionary about it. So when we're talking about exchanges, we're talking about interacting with the old world because we're forced to, while we're trying to push this new world forward. So from my perspective, this is, as Adam said, inevitable, number one. Number two, as you were saying, absolutely crucial to getting us to where we need to be. We're not where we need to be, obviously, in this ecosystem because the on-ramps, as you mentioned, with fiat. And so we've got a lot of work to do. So in other words, the more the Bitcoin experience overall is peer-to-peer, the better, because that's where we need to go. And, you know, this is a point I've been making to a lot of people as well. I think there are certain things in our society as humans, global humans, that should be open source, for example, or should be peer-to-peer. And it's not just money, although money is certainly a very important one, but also communication. And so we also have the same weak link with Facebook, for example. You have essentially a dictatorship by hidden algorithm. I mean, think about how unethical that is. It's a crazy concept. The fact that we're relying on a centralized company run by Mark Zuckerberg, who's throwing out God, who knows what kind of hidden algorithms to control what you see, that is a ridiculous concept as well. So look, as human beings, for certain important things, money, communicating with one another, those are two huge ones. We need to go to peer-to-peer systems. And it's not going to happen overnight, but we do need to be focused that, no, it's not, the system's not going to, we're building a parallel world right now to the old world. And it's going to take time. So don't get upset that the old world isn't, making it easy for you. They're not going to make it easy for you. We need to step up and make these changes. And so, look, it's going to, as you said, it's going to incentivize good things to happen. Look, Bitcoin itself wouldn't have happened if it weren't for Satoshi being extremely thoughtful about the problems that existed in the world. And he did it, and he, she, team, whatever, did it in a very intelligent manner, knowing that there was a problem that needed to be solved. So now we have more problems we need to solve. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, and if I don't know if anybody got a chance to check out the Zuckerberg hearings, but I mean, he would not give a straight answer on almost anything. And remember, he doesn't have to. He funded like three-fourths of those freaking senators. He provides funding for them. So the most that he basically let out was, Senator, we sell ads. That's your freaking answer. I mean, into this black box system that we call Facebook. It is a black box. There is no way that you will ever know what the hell goes on in there. And I know something else like that, the NSA and other three-letter agencies, other black boxes that we have no idea where the funding goes, where what types of activities they're engaged in. And that's when you go down that route, you eventually get to the other side, which is just complete freaking totalitarianism, a police state lock you up for saying something you shouldn't have. I mean, that's exactly the path that we were going on before Bitcoin and cryptography. And I think a lot of the early cypherpunks saw that and acted in my opinion, the most intelligent way they could, which was they created these mailing lists. They all got together. They wrote code. They solved these problems together, and they didn't ask permission from anybody, from nobody. And like it's well known now, if Skype had to ask permission, right, from the telecoms and things like that, they would have said hell no. There's no way it would have been built. So at the end of the day, this permissionless innovation that Bitcoin allows, I think, is what is life-changing, is what is going to change this world, is what is going to bring forth these new types of societies and economies that people like us just can only dream about right now, right? That we talk about as this new golden age that can come upon us. So very interesting to see it play out. I do want to mention with somebody in the chat who just donated $10. He said, I panic sold half my Bitcoins for 900 due to Vinny Lingham's FUD back in March of 2017. So don't be like me. I had to pay $9,000 in long-term capital gains taxes. So don't be like that guy to sell on FUD from somebody like Vinny and then have to pay your taxes on top of that. It's madness and it's insanity. So try to pick your thought leaders well, people. Try to not go too much into the FUD, too much into the mainstream media, because that's why I started the show in the first place, because of the lack of accountability, because of the lies, because of the absolute corruption of mainstream media. So
you know what, Vortex, though, back then at the time of Vinny's famous call, the FUD was real. There were real, genuine concerns about the future of Bitcoin, which were why people were so scared. I certainly was. The point being that now I don't have any of those fears. And that's why selling, when you have like a regular market correction like you're having now, is ridiculous. Because as I call it, this is the only material bear market I've ever seen with not a shred of bad news anywhere. I mean, there's literally nothing wrong with Bitcoin. Everything is stronger than ever, as opposed to back then when times were scary and I'd wake up every morning worried about what the next shoe was to drop. Now I wake up in the morning with not a fear in the world. And that's why anyone would sell now after you've just seen it at 20,000, knowing very well it could go back there, is ridiculous.
Yep. And it's true. You know, I still believe, though, you know, Andy, even back then, with all the craziness that was happening, I still believe that the fundamentals were sound. Even back then, Andy, with all that craziness, with the UASF, you know, with all that stuff, I still, you know, fundamentally believed that Bitcoin was sound to the point to where, I don't know. Call me crazy.
I mean, I held on too. I believed at the same time I was very fearful. And that's why the price was $900 as opposed to $9,000. There was risk involved. But those risks simply aren't there. Governments are not going to stop it. Hackers are not going to stop it. Roger Ver is not going to stop it. It's just a matter of when and how fast the pace of adoption is. It's just that simple.
Exactly. No matter how many babies are killed. Freaking Roger Ver. Yeah, I encourage everybody to check out that speech. That's pretty great. But hey, that gave us one of the best GIFs to ever be used on Twitter ever, with Samson Mao's GIF. I think I'm going to use that meme for forevermore. Anytime I need to use one of those memes where people are just like, forever, ever, Samson, you are my meme. So thank you so much for that, Samson. All right, guys, I think we can move on. Does anybody else have anything on this topic, or did we go through everybody? I think we did. Yep. Okay, cool. Let's go ahead and move on to the final topic then of the evening, ladies and gentlemen, the Samsung. So this is a pretty interesting topic. It's been ongoing for a little while here. There's been a few people in the community that have been shouting for things like proof of work changes and shouting things like there's not enough competition in mining and maybe a little bit too centralized and things like that. But I think that we can see a light at the end of the tunnel here with this topic, where we now have found out that it is, in fact, Samsung that is building the acinq chips for Halong mining, which can, in my opinion, really actually bring some actual competition here to Bitmain. And so let's see what the panelists' thoughts are on this. We'll go with Michael, you first. Well, actually, with you first last time. Let's go with Andy. Andy first on this one. Andy, what are your thoughts on this revelation here that it is in fact Samsung building these chips for Halong? And do you see this competition now coming into Bitcoin mining? Do you see this as a way now to be able to sort of swing the centralization curve the other way towards more decentralization in mining?
Well, this was one of the issues that even during the times of FUD, I was never worried about. Of course, we were going to have decentralization. It's not like you're going to have a handful of miners in China are going to control this global thing just because they have a subsidy from the government. I mean, there are tons of governments around the world that give subsidies out, especially for something that's valuable. And then you have places around the world where, like, the weather conditions are just perfect for mining. So it was inevitable that the decentralization of mining was coming. And as for the chips, that's even more ridiculous to believe that some podunk company. And yes, Bitmain is, quote, big in the Bitcoin world, but in the industrial world, Bitmain is like a laughable little joke. It's run by a little troll, and it's a tiny little nothing company. So of course they're going to have competition from everyone. You're going to have hedge funds that'll go into competition with Bitmain that are funded well, let alone giant corporations like the biggest chip makers in the world. So there's no doubt in my mind that the Apples, I should say the Intels and the Samsungs, that they're all going to get in this business because it's profitable. And you'll see every tech company on the planet will be involved in cryptocurrency in some way, shape, or form. So nothing about this surprises me.
Well, it's good to hear, Andy, because I'm in the similar boat. You know, I just always saw Bitcoin as a very valuable asset. So I thought, well, of course, other people are going to come into the space if, in fact, there's profits to be made. And because wherever there's profits to be made, somebody's going to come in and try to create efficiency, right? Where there is sufficient sufficient amount of incentive. And I believe that's what Bitcoin provides as it continues to become more valuable, as it continues to create more utility, you know, up and up we go in the price. So let's ask Michael here. Michael, what are your thoughts on the whole Halong, you know, fiasco? It kind of went on there for a little while where we weren't quite sure. They were being a little secretive there, but now we've seen all the miners get shipped across to all the people, and all the people on Twitter, you know, showing videos and pictures of their miners working. Are you hopeful? Are you Did you ever see Bitcoin mining centralization as an issue, and are you hopeful now for the future with Halong?
All right, so yeah, interesting. But two parts of that question, I'd say. So first, you know, Andy and I, what we discussed on our last one-on-one, I think relates to this, which was we were talking about institutional money, and I was making the point that real institutional money hasn't touched Bitcoin, right? Like the big, huge funds, like a BlackRock or a Wellington or Fidelity Management, aren't putting Bitcoin in their funds yet, but they probably will one day. And so it's stuff like this that institutional managers will take note of. You know, they're saying, okay, well, Samsung, this giant, you know, global tech corporation is pushing into this area, right? You know, it just gives that sort of, it's just another sort of infection into the mainstream. It's showing that this is here to stay from the point of view of large corporations. So I think it's, you know, important in that sense. But just a sort of a corollary, not off topic, but related for me, you know, I think you guys all know that, you know, I don't spend as much time on Bitcoin as any of you. So I sort of can give even almost a layman's approach to things, like how someone who's not doing 100% of time looking at Bitcoin would see stuff like this. And for me, the most incredible thing about last year, and you know, I've been a Bitcoin supporter since 2012, but last year was just such a game changer for me because we actually saw governance in Bitcoin and how it works. It's like governance by anarchy, essentially, and it worked. And I think we got a good outcome. And you know, you had this thing where it looked like the big powerful miners plus the VCs were on one side, right, doing backroom deals, really, really aggressively trying to push for this one outcome. And guess what happened, right? It was like the people like us throwing memes on the internet that won essentially this battle. And that is, I have to say, you know, my entire life, I've been so jaded over time now, just seeing the people lose, right? And always seeing the big money and the power always get their way. That was one of the most important things I think to ever happen in the history of Bitcoin, because it showed something that I just haven't seen in other areas before. And it shows how strong and anti-fragile Bitcoin is, and that governance like this can work, essentially anarchy. So anyway, that's sort of just, you know, I just wanted to throw that. That's how I always saw the mining, you know, from my layman's perspective. I was always a little worried that they might make a power play. And it's incredible how they weren't able to get what they wanted. So just wanted to point that out.
No, it's absolutely true. You know, and we over here at the WCN, I believe, started the No 2X movement. You know, we started the hashtag and tried to get everybody on board. And then of course, a bunch of people made stickers, right? And then Samson made some hats. And so, yeah, it really kind of took off organically. It really was a grassroots movement, because that's exactly how we saw the opposing side was this the side that was completely funded by all of these miners and all of these VCs wanting to change the actual repo, change the freaking Bitcoin source code to be their own private set of source code. You know, it's their own repo. It's their own source code that they control. And, you know, for people who've been in Bitcoin as long as I have and others, that was just the most insane attack, the biggest attack we've ever seen on Bitcoin. Literally tried to subvert the actual programming code repo. And so from that's what really fueled me to help the UASF movement specifically, because I couldn't see that go down. And apparently enough people agreed, because we got the SegWit activated. And we're seeing that now reduce fees. And we did see this government sort of happen. And, you know, a lot of people like to say, you know, anarchy is chaos. Well, if that was true, then Bitcoin wouldn't work. If that was true, then we wouldn't produce a block every single 10 minutes. If that was true, then 2x would have gone through, you know, but it's not true. We see Bitcoin being governed through consensus, not through democracy, through consensus. And that's just really, really important. We vote with our nodes, right? We vote with our full nodes. And I think that's really important, because there's people even today that are denying how the UASF went down, that are denying the importance of full validating nodes, mainly on the Bcash side. On the Bitcoin Cash side, that's where people are saying that the only nodes that matter are miners. But of course, we know that to be just ridiculous, because if the miners could both validate the blocks and create the blocks, well, then they really could start censoring some transactions like our friend Cobra is so very worried about. But that is not going to happen, because as we know how Bitcoin works, proof of work, one block after the next, you cannot change those transactions, even with a 51% attack. I really encourage everybody to check out Andreas's Q&A videos on this stuff. He's got a lot of recently good stuff about 51% attack and full nodes. So check that out. I'd really encourage everybody to see that. Now, let's go with our final guest, and I believe Mr. Adam Meister. Adam, what is your thoughts on this topic so far, on the discussion so far, and on the revelation of us finding out that it is Samsung making the chips for Halong?
Well, of course, eventually big corporate conglomerates were going to get into something that is incredibly profitable and something that is the future. But when we're dealing with these traditional corporations, they're conservative. They're going to wait until their boards are comfortable with jumping into something that is associated with anarchy, that is associated with controversial things. They hear all the FUD too, and they're scared off by it. So this is a good sign that this is the tip of the iceberg with these corporate conglomerates getting into, be it mining, but every aspect of Bitcoin. If people might not remember, but in the days of the internet, at first, the big corporations, they didn't have anything to do with it. They waited. They were conservative until their boards allowed them to do it. And then they all jumped in and had their web pages and everything. That's where we are right now in cryptocurrency, in Bitcoin, that the traditional corporations that we're so used to, they're taking their time. They're letting all the podunk little startups play around here until they feel it's safe. And then they're going to jump in. So mining obviously is something that can be quite lucrative. And it's good to see that they're jumping in on this. But we're going to see big corporations jump into other aspects of Bitcoin also. So it's exciting. Competition is great. It's going to help all of us. And this is where the big boys play. Governments cannot stop. This is the free market. So if corporations want to get in, there's nothing stopping them. We're going to see all sorts of competition here. And you know what? A lot of the times, the little guys are going to be able to beat these corporations that have taken their time to get in, because they were in first and they have a better understanding. They're nimble. So it's going to be fun to see how all this works out. But it's the tip of the iceberg in terms of the big corporations, big conglomerates jumping in. So it's hey, welcome to the party, guys. Good luck.
Yeah. Can I add to that, Vortex?
Real quick, it's got to say, Andy, tip of the
go.
iceberg, Adam. Tip of the iceberg. That's what people need to realize. That's what I try to tell people, that we are in the early days, people. Yeah. The early days. Go ahead, Andy.
Yeah, I'm just going to sum up, what Mike was saying, and Adam. Mike's talking about from the financial side, the financial investors have not yet got in, and they are starting to, because again, I talked back in the fall about the $6,000 price equals $100 billion market cap, which is just the minimum threshold for most of the world's biggest institutions. So at this point, I would say Bitcoin is investable for almost any institution, even though it's such an early stage. It still has illiquidity issues. It still is associated with bad things. It gets bad press. So a lot of the big institutions are wary of it, but they are aware of it. And there have been crypto hedge funds, and they will become much bigger institutions as it becomes more liquid and higher in price. And then when you talk about the actual corporate side, meaning businesses, which are even less nimble than financial investors, they take a longer amount of time too, because it has to be worth their while. When we talk about Samsung, I mean, it's like you can fit like 1,000 Earths inside of Jupiter. Well, that's like Bitmain is to Samsung. Samsung could put Bitmain out of business tomorrow if it wanted to. It needs to be a business that their directors are comfortable with, their shareholders, that they feel that is sustainable over the long amount of time. Because if they go in, they are going to go in Jupiter-sized way, and so will all the other big corporations that compete with them. So again, we are, quote, in early stages, but we've been above 100 billion market cap now for, I don't know, 6 or 8 months, and the fundamentals couldn't be better. So the longer that we stay up here and the liquidity increases and the security of the Bitcoin network increases, and of course the Lightning Network, you talk to Francis Pouliot, and he's saying that he's just getting ridiculous amount of inquiries from big real corporations about using Bitcoin and cryptocurrency because of systems like this. And you realize that we are so close to those institutions coming in, but it takes time, and some will come in more quickly than others. But we may have a moment or two, like Mike says, decades in weeks, where they realize they need to be in it, and that's why you just need to hodl.
Yep. And it's, I do see some people in the chat that are talking about like, oh, the hash power is doubling so much and, the price is going down. It's going to lead to another death spiral. And it's like, look, guys, we've been through this before with the last halving, all these death spiral predictions about it's not going to be profitable enough. So mining is going to go down, and then Bitcoin's going to go down, and then on and on. It's like, no, guys, no. Here's what's happening. The hash power is just getting absolutely insane. There's people that are turning on new hash power all over the world. And we have the halving coming up in less than a couple of years. So, in June, I believe it'll be just 2 years. So literally in a couple of months, it'll be less than 2 years away. So I can assure you those miners are going to be quite good. And remember, guys, the mining strategy, for the most part, they hold a large percentage of the Bitcoin that they mine. They hold on to this percentage. Obviously, they have bills to pay, right? But they hold on to a significant percentage because they know that what they're investing in is not just all this mining hardware to sell their profits 24 hours later. No, they're investing in a new monetary system, a new world, global, open, borderless, secure currency. So of course they're going to hold on to a little bit of this, and so for the bad times, right? For the down times and things like that. So I can assure you that any miner worthwhile is absolutely good to go right now, despite these rises, because we are fully expecting Bitcoin to be in the 6 digits come 2020. I mean, this is the reality of the situation with the economics, with the trends, with the curves, with the crazy things happening around the world, like negative interest rates and the bail-ins. It's going to get real fun over the next couple of years specifically. And as the crypto space continues to explode into the mainstream media and into everybody's lives, it's just going to go exponential. So really looking forward to that. Really great show, guys. Awesome topics. Does anybody have anything final to say on this before we do the outros? Nope. Okay, awesome. Well, great show, guys. Thanks so much for joining us. We covered a pretty good amount of topics there, and in a pretty good amount of time, only about an hour. So thanks again, guys, so much for joining us. I had a great time. Hopefully you guys had a great time too. We had over 500 people there at some point live watching us, and we had a great discussion in the chat. So again, if you guys missed the show, join us in the comments below. We'd be happy to say hello. So let's go ahead and say goodbye to our panelists. And remember, guys, we will be here. We will be together next Wednesday in Denver, all of us together, shaking hands, talking Bitcoin. Hopefully you guys will be able to join us there. So Adam, where can we find you? And are you looking forward to next week?
Wow, I am really looking forward to meeting everyone in person, and all the people out in Colorado too. I'll answer all your questions. Strong hand, pound that like button. You're going to see I'm going to be on fire just like I am on the air in person. But yeah, you can find me at Twitter at TechBalt, TechBalt. Look me up at Bitcoin Meister on YouTube, disruptmeister.com, Bitcoin Meister on Steemit. You guys own them. You find me, pound the like button, do all those things I always say. Strong hand, dudes.
You guys all know the Meister. Come on. All right, Mr. Andy Hoffman, where can we find you? And are you as well looking forward to next Wednesday?
Well, I'm really looking forward to it because I don't have to travel to get here because I live here. And it's going to be a fantastic event. People, I really encourage you. These 3-hour Q&A sessions are amazing. I used to do them in the precious metal business, and they'll be 1,000 times more fun in the Bitcoin business. I'm at cryptogoldcentral.com. Come try a free trial subscription, or email me at ahoffman@cryptogoldcentral.com.
Yes, sir. So it's going to be a good time so far. It's going to be, everybody's looking forward to it. I'm very much looking forward to shaking your guys' hand in real life. So let's go ahead and ask Michael. Michael, where can we find you, sir?
Yeah, so libertyblitzkrieg.com. On Twitter, I'm at libertyblitz. Just for people that don't really know my work, which I'm sure some of your audience doesn't, what I really do is I talk about macro issues, anything macro. So I'll talk about, potential for global conflagrations, political trends that are happening both here and in Europe. One of the big things for me now has to do with what I see Bitcoin ushering in on a global level. And as you mentioned earlier, I think one of the most exciting things that I think is going to occupy people's times in the next, let's say, 10 to 15 years is this concept of we're going to look around and we're going to see these massive nation states that we live in and just say, this is ridiculous. And this is one of the big points that I try to make. United States, 320 million people, something like that. You'll never make everybody happy. It's a preposterous system where we're going to Congress and we're saying, oh, let's vote on this. And if 51%, if 51% want this, then everybody has to do that. It's stupid. And here's the last thing I'm just going to say. I've something I've been thinking about recently. I'm sure you've all heard this, right? This weird thing where Congress has like 10% approval rating, but everyone likes their own congressperson. Think about why that might be. The reason is because their congressperson might actually kind of reflect the ideas of their community. But when then it becomes this giant mass where everyone's trying to make everybody happy in a country of 320 million very diverse people, it doesn't work. So we're going to need to be going down to a much more local level of governance, much more voluntary, much more free. And so everything Bitcoin is trying to do, think about bigger picture, everybody. I want everybody to think not just money. Money's huge, but not just money, everything. Let's take this down to freedom and voluntarism and decentralization on a local level for everything. That's it.
Yep, it is kind of insane, that people think that, a single policy or a single government or, a single anything can be good for hundreds of millions of people. And then, like you said, over there in Russia and India, they got billions of people. Like what? That kind of, eventually, of course, that thing is going to collapse. Of course, there's going to be rampant corruption running through it at that level. So yeah, I really am glad to see that Bitcoin hopefully will bring this back down to a local level, back to where we started with the Constitution of the United States, these United States back to a local level. So very, very cool stuff, Michael. Everybody check him out. We will, of course, again, be there next Wednesday in Colorado. And then, of course, you guys will find us every Sunday here on World Crypto Network. So thanks again, guys, so much for joining us. We really, really appreciate it. Thanks again so much to our guests for donating their time. Thank you so much, guys. We really appreciate it and hope to see you out there next Wednesday. But until next time, guys, keep talking Bitcoin. We'll talk to you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.